Past simple, regular and irregular verbs. Do you remember what you did yesterday? And the day before yesterday? And let's say last summer. Well, you might remember, but how to say that in English? For that, we use the past simple. And this lesson is dedicated to that tense. It's going to be pretty intense, so get ready. First, we will learn how to form regular and irregular verbs. Then you'll see how to spell regular verbs in the past simple, how to pronounce the ending ed. There are actually 3 forms. We will definitely talk about the use of the past simple and the essential time expressions with the past simple. You might remember that there is a table for irregular verbs, so you'll get a tip on how to use it and learn all of them efficiently. And last but not least, we'll do some exercises on the past simple answering the question, when was the last time you did something? As you might remember, there are 2 types of verbs, regular and irregular. We simply add the ending ed to the base form, like in the word work. In the past, it sounds like this, worked, worked. And the second category is irregular verbs, which change completely, like go, which is went in the past, and eat, ate in the past. So, as you already know, we add ed to the irregular verbs. No matter the person and number, I, you, he, she, it, we, they, all receive the same form. Let's try to pronounce these verbs in the past. Worked, worked. Wanted, wanted. Finished, finished. Listened, listened. Watched, watched. Played, played. Well done. And what about the spelling rules or how we write the ending of the verbs in the past? To begin with, the verbs which end in e, like leave, add only d. For example, lived. The next rule is for the verbs which end in a consonant or a vowel and another consonant, like in stop. In this case, we have to double the final consonant. He stopped. And the last rule is for the verbs which end in a consonant plus the letter y, like in study. What we do is change y into ied, and we have I studied. Now, let's practice the pronunciation of the ending ed. Remember, this ending is used only for regular verbs. How do we know whether the verb is regular or irregular? Well, checking the dictionary will be the most appropriate way at this point. If you need information on what dictionary to use, watch my video on how to study English on your own. So, here are the verbs. The first pronunciation is d, d. And we apply it to the verbs which end in a vowel or a voiced sound, like stay, stayed, play, played, and move, moved. The next pronunciation is t, t. And we use it if the verb ends in a voiceless sound, like in the verbs checked, stopped, and dropped. And the third column is for the verbs which end in the sound, pay attention, not the letter, but the sound t or d, like invent, invented, print, printed, and complete, completed. Here is a table of voiced and voiceless consonants for those of you who really want to understand the idea deeply. But just for your knowledge, there are pairs of consonants which occur in the same place of articulation, but some of them are pronounced involving vocal cords vibration and others don't. Compare b, p, d, t, g, k, b, f, v, f, z, s, j, sh, j, ch. If you don't understand those strange symbols, totally understandable. Just watch another of my videos on English phonetic symbols and you will be able to read any word in the dictionary. The link is in the description. So, how about checking if you got the idea? Take these verbs and place them into the correct column. Finish, finished. Call, called. Smile, smiled. Visit, visited. Want, wanted. Laugh, laughed. Clean, cleaned. Help, helped. Look, looked. Decide, decided. Leave, lived. Melt, melted. Great job! So remember, every time you want to pronounce these verbs as stopid, don't do that. It should be stopped. Okay, now it's probably a good moment to have a break, grab a cup of coffee, and continue. And the next thing we're going to talk about is when do we actually use the past simple? And here comes the confusion. The first use is when we speak about a finished action in the past. Notice we have to say when it happened. For example, my parents met when? In 1960. The film started when? At 7:30. The next use is when we speak about a finished state in the past. Kate had a happy childhood. We lived in a small city. And the last column represents the use of the past simple when we talk about a repeated action in the past. She always telephoned me on Monday. They went swimming every day. Don't forget to write your favorite example in the comments. Okay, and what are all these time expressions? Remember, I said it's important to mention when the action happened. Well, when we use the past simple, we often say the time of the action, like in 1960, at 7:30, on Monday, in June, etc. Look and find time expressions here. First, the word when. Great. Then, the word ago. Next, yesterday, and the word last. Last Tuesday, last night, etc. Okay, this is all about regular verbs, and now it's time to talk about irregular verbs. And by the way, many common verbs have an irregular past form, like the verb go, went, have, had, meet, met, know, knew, etc. Do you remember this crazy table of irregular verbs? Well, you shouldn't worry that much about all of them at once. Learn each verb one by one, trying to remember all three forms. The third form will be useful when you learn the present perfect tense. And time for the exercises. Alright, here is a typical question in the past simple. When was the last time you did something? For example, Tanya, when was the last time you bought some new clothes? And the answer can be about a month ago. It's a time expression. I bought some jeans. So, buy some new clothes in the past sounds as bought. When? And you also have to say when you did this. Again, the same example, about a month ago. Or a chocolate. David, when was the last time you ate chocolate? And the possible answer could be yesterday, I ate chocolate for a snack. Got it? Okay, next one, try to do it yourself. Go to the cinema. When was the last time you went to the cinema? And you can answer, I went to the cinema yesterday. Now, time to pause the video and find the past forms of all the verbs that you see. And now, let's check. Speak English outside the English lesson. When was the last time you spoke English outside the English lesson? When was the last time you went to the hairdressers? When was the last time you did some sport? When was the last time you swam in the sea or a lake? When was the last time you spent over $100 in one day? When was the last time you cooked a big meal? When was the last time you wrote a letter or an email? When was the last time you rode a bicycle? When was the last time you traveled by train? When was the last time you went to the dentist? And the last one, when was the last time you went on holiday? And now I've got a challenge for you. Write an interesting question in the comments which would start with the phrase, when was the last time you? And we'll choose the most interesting one. And later you can use all these questions in a board game that you can use in class or play with your friends. You just have to fulfill each square with an action, like write a letter, but try to be more creative, okay? And take turns asking the same question to your friend. When was the last time you went to the moon? Nope. When was the last time you okay, you can write any question there, like any funny question. For example, when was the last time you fell asleep in a weird place? Or when was the last time you started laughing at the wrong moment? Okay, try to be as creative as possible. And it's going to be much more fun playing this game. That's all for today. Check the information in the description box to find new online courses. Good luck learning English and have a great day.